Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flix Show. My name is Chris Wong. This is episode 520 of the Ping Pong Flix Show. It's got some awesome pictures from Wonder Woman 1984 that has come out. And this is regards to the Empire magazine that's coming out. I don't know if it got to, I think it got to stands already, but there's some pictures that I want to show you. Absolutely, it very much looks like the 80s. You see her here on the cover. This is another cover. You see her in that golden armor as well, with the lasso she's got there. A little bit more of the armor and her wings, which looks pretty badass, I might say. And also a nice picture with her and what we think is Steve Trevor over there in Washington, having a nice walk or near there, and cuddling and things like that. So they have a little bit of a romance there, surely. So we also got some pictures from the magazine itself. Looks like Barbara Minerva is right there. Not exactly Cheetah yet, but sporting something. We also have Wonder Woman. I think this is in the mall, running towards the screen. And then here is actually a shot of the other side, which she was doing with the lasso. So now we know who she lassoed. She lassoed Maxwell Lord. So, and we all know he is the villain in the story. So we get to see a little bit of that. We also get to see a little bit of, oh my God, Barbara Minerva was also there as well, grabbing the lasso, seeing that, showing that she does have some power. And I'm thinking at these two spots right here, like they both are going to say something truthful, or do they possess the power to not be able to say anything truthful? I mean, maybe they're strong enough, maybe they have something that makes them not be able to tell the truth, and so that's why these guys start attacking, possibly, I don't know, attacking Wonder Woman. Maybe Wonder Woman has to turn into a vigilante because they were he's able to change their mind, and showing that and because maybe he is able to lie, with the lasso on, that, ultimately people don't trust Wonder Woman at this point in time. And just, theorizing, maybe that happens throughout most of the movie and makes her, in a way, kind of go away, before Batman v Superman. So, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, but this is kind of cool. Really looking forward to this. This kind of reminds me, because Patty Jenkins, for the first Wonder Woman, she had a lot of it was the Donner Superman, right? I can't help but feel like this fight in the Washington, in the Capitol, it just kind of, in the White House, I think it's the White House, I'm not sure. It just reminds me of like General Zod in the White House in Superman 2. Something like that. I don't know. And maybe I'm looking too far into it, but she definitely wanted to capture some of the Donner stuff. And maybe that's what's going on here. I don't know. But it looks pretty awesome. And yes, I put this up because this is still one of my favorite Wonder Woman posters, because that background, it just reminds me of Ultraman. Ultraman. So anyway, I want to get into Zack Snyder's Justice League in a little bit. Instead of choosing a JL fan pick poster of the day, I wanted to show this. Chris Dawson put out his hashtag Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I don't know if music is copyrighted, so I'm just going to turn that off. And he made a little animation here of Zack Snyder's JL. Pretty cool, pretty sweet. You can probably see this in a movie, and you never know, maybe Chris Dawson's going to utilize something like that for his own Black Suit edition. I'm not sure. He's still reportedly working on that, but work is in the way and things like the whole COVID-19 thing. It's very understandable that some of this stuff is delayed, right? Including possibly Zack Snyder's Justice League as well. So awesome, Chris Dawson. Keep doing what you're doing. It's great. Okay, now let's let's talk about the elephant in the room. And some people said to not even bother with this. It's nothing but clickbait. But I have enough people in my mentions to say that I should talk about it. So I gave it a go. Okay, fine. I'll click it once and read it, right? And for the most part, I want to say, for the most part, there are things in this article that is using truths, using facts, but kind of turning it into his own favor. And ultimately, I'll go through it. Let's go through it, right? So Fandom Wire. Let's go open this up. All right. So we know this story is by Andy Signore. Andy Signore, as you know, he was from Screen Junkies. He developed all those Screen Junkies, movie fights and stuff like that. And he was let go. His reputation was he was kind of canceled for a while because of, the sexual assault allegations during the Me Too movement with April Dawn and suffice to say, all his friends just left him pretty much high and dry. Whether he did that or not, it's up to you to decide. He is trying to get back into the game, if you will, and recently got into like Fandom Wire to start writing articles, and he's got that Popcorn Planet thingamajig. So he has a YouTube channel as well. But now I'm gonna go through this with you just so you can kind of understand where I am seeing this. Okay, so he says he's got sources. Everybody says that he's got sources in Warner Brothers and things like that. That HBOMax will be secretly dropping this film this May. That's the key right there. We'll be dropping this film in May. Now, don't get hung up on this, okay? Because May is next month. All right, this movie is not just dropping on HBO Max this May, right? But he's taking that and being the overarching thing for the whole "it's not coming" thing, right? So the answer is no. Okay, we already knew that because Zack Snyder still has to shoot. There's the COVID-19 thing. Harry Lennox has not even gone shooting that yet, and he's waiting to go and shoot that. Victor Koo from My Pegasus was not invited to go over yet. We know all this. It's not coming tomorrow. Every single movie is delayed. Every single movie is delayed. So, for especially the ones that still need to be shot. So, get that out of the way. Answer is no. Yes, true. It's not coming out. It's not releasing in May. And he uses that, but goes on further, right? And of course, he talks to Warner Brothers, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, right? And it's interesting when he says Warner Brothers is currently very unhappy with Zack Snyder. They're even more frustrated by his content and encouragement of fans, blah, blah, blah. In fact, it's interesting that they're letting him, though. I mean, it could easily have come out and through somebody like the Hollywood Reporter or something and say, no, it's not coming out. This is, an official person, right? But no, it's still just a rep, a source from Warner Brothers and things like that. So that actually, it's still that, right? Also, by the way, and I'll go into Logan in a minute. Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? And you can go ahead and listen to my video I had with Alex Lobo, and we talked about this, right? How is Zack Snyder able to share these photos that are owned by Warner Bros? How is Zack Snyder able to put his name on a logo and things like that, right? And utilize logos and things like that. And he says he can't. He must have had approval with Warner Brothers. He must have had already in place approval from them, right? And so how can they be unhappy with him and yet letting Zack Snyder talk about his film and still use it without suing him or anything like that, right? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, right? So the lack of unfinished Snyder Cut is an unspoken fact around Hollywood that no one seems to want to go on record about. That's not true. Zack Snyder himself has gone on record about it. And so he goes on to say that there not only will be a secret drop of the project on HBOMax, but we've also confirmed that the cut is not finished. Like I said earlier, he still needs to shoot. He already said this. He has that slate. He wants Victor Koo to come down and see a cool scene shot by Thing. And also this this Vero post, this comment that was, we've seen it for a while now. Right? We've seen it for a while. And then I've said it myself that Zack Snyder himself has said the film is not 100% finished. Still some stuff I want to do, as with every film. I've made not sure what difference it makes as to the finished level of the film. I've said this already. It's not finished. He's confirmed it himself. He's finally come out and said it is not 100% finished. But you guys are forgetting about the second part. What difference does it make? What difference does it make to the finished level of the film? You know, he himself is saying he's not going to release it until it's 100% finished. Okay, I mean, he said it's not finished. Let's not get hung up on that word about it being finished. Let's not get hung up on the completeness of that factor, because Zack Snyder will not himself show us a film that is not 100% finished to his liking, regardless. Okay, so he wants it polished. He's a perfectionist. We've seen that displayed in his artwork, which is his movies. He's a perfectionist. He wants to make sure his movie is 100% finished so that we can see it for how he wants it. It's meant to be seen, right? That's why we should not get hung up about it being finished. How are we going to know when it's finished? When we actually get to see it. That's when we know it's 100% finished. So let's not get hung up on it. Like I said, it doesn't matter how much it's finished right now. Just know that when it's coming out, it's going to be 100% finished. Okay, so let's not get hung up on that. So Fandom Wire has really said nothing that we don't already know in that first part, right? Then they talked about a little bit more about Warner Brothers being frustrated and very unhappy and we're bullying them like a multi-billion-dollar company is afraid of it. Like, are they that thin-skinned that they actually think we're being an effect on them? If that's the case, good job, guys. We actually are being an effect on them. Like, we are scaring them. We are making them mad. Really? So that's a weird thing, because that is an opposite of what a corporate multi-billion-dollar company would think about. Right? You think about this now. All right? Take those words out. This is not an elementary school. This is not one kid being bullied and being teased on so the teacher says stop. Okay? This is a multi-billion-dollar company. It's a corporate company. I've dealt with corporate companies. If you get enough noise, what would they do? Do they ignore it? Or do they say, how can we make money out of this? What can we do with this release of Snyder Cut? Or what is this release of Snyder Cut? What does it need to take? How much money goes into this, and what will happen, right? Like what can we do with this? What can we take all this noise, all this people who wants this certain cut, this certain project, and what should we do with it? How can we profit from it? This is all about, it's a corporate company. All they're thinking about is the dollar money, right? And so that part is inconsistent in this whole thing, because they did take a meeting with Zack Snyder to discuss the project. So they ultimately, that's all two separate things. All right, they got their attention, so they said, let's have a meeting. Let's have a meeting. So that first part doesn't make sense. If they were so fed up by the antics and everything, they would not have done a meeting to begin with. Okay, so the fact that there is a meeting, that means they weren't. They were curious. They were wondering how much it was and things like that. And I'm just going through the article. I don't know if any of this is true, by the way. I'm just saying. Just thinking through it a little bit. Think from the perspective of a company, perspective of a multi-billion-dollar company, a corporate company, right? Don't think of them as school children. Don't think of them as, like a company, an elementary school, things like that, right? So now, the $20 million, that part, I have no idea. I don't know where they're getting it from. We hear so many different dollar amounts and things like that to shoot it this way. But the fact that they're saying things like $20 million is too much, that's crazy, okay? Because we've already had articles from, more reputable sites like Deadline or, I think it was Deadline or the Hollywood Reporter, where they said that HBOMax, the second division, is going to make original films, right? 8 to 10 films a year. By the way, none of those have even been announced yet. It's coming next month. 8 to 10 films a year, each with a budget amount of like $78 to $80 million. $78 to $80 million on projects that no one knows about and possibly gives a shit about at this point. They don't know. So you're telling me that they're wondering, how are we going to profit from putting in $20 million on a movie called Justice League? A movie that was hashtagged by Ben Affleck, Gal, Jason, Ray Fisher, countless blue check marks, people who want to see it, a million tweets, you crazy. Okay, look how much they put out for a goddamn Friends reunion. No offense to Friends fans out there, I'm just saying. All right, so think about that. I would have probably thought this a little bit more if Fandom Wire had said $100 million, $150 million, $200 million, but $20 million. Give me a break. All right. And so we're talking about Warner Brothers here. We're still talking about, by the way, if you read down a little bit further, he says, no, but that could change in time. Remember, it took 26 years for Warner Brothers to officially release Richard Donner, Snyder Cut, blah, blah, blah. He's pulling it back. First he said no in the beginning, and now he says, oh, well, but it's going to be wait. And like I said, a reminder that this whole thing came from the start, from it's not coming out in May, which we already know that. It's not coming out in May. He still has to shoot stuff. That's something that's not, of course we know about. And I know there's a video. I'm not going to check out the video because it's literally got Andy Signore, right, and Jody's Corner, both who hates BVS, who hates Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. Okay, they hate it. They don't actually want the Snyder Cut. Ray Fisher said, don't feed the trolls. Let's not do it now, right? Let's not do it here, right? Andy Signore wants a fight. He made up movie fights. Have you guys seen movie fights? He invites people on the show because he loves it. He loves that. He loves the fights. It feeds him. He needs it. He needs the fights. He likes it. You seen those videos? Yes, I've seen him. He goes out to the cons to pick fights. He does. With fans. To show them how wrong they are. And you'll keep it's that's his that's his MO for the whole thing. He wants it. He loves it. So don't feed it. Ignore it. So I read this so you don't have to. This is my response to that. It's bullshit. Now, almost like a little ray of sunshine for today, Ray Porter, hashtag Zack Snyder's Justice League, from what people have told me, because I was pretty busy today, so I didn't get to actually be in the midst of this. But apparently he tweeted this out shortly thereafter, kind of like a ray of sunshine, saying, hey, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. You know, chin up. I don't know why I got that accent. It's weird. And, you know, I have to go back to this, right? Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? Let's talk a little bit about Zack Snyder's Justice League. I don't know how long this video is going to be at this point in time, but why is it called Zack Snyder's Justice League? Okay, the reason why I think that is so important for you to understand the choice words for Zack Snyder's Justice League, because we're talking about, well, it's going to have OG Steppenwolf, it's going to have the scary hard idea. Zack is putting his name on it. There's many reasons, and I've told you this. Zack Snyder's Justice League, it differentiates itself from whatever Warner Brothers is doing to the DCEU right now in theaters. It's a differentiation, because he cannot say Zack Snyder's Wonder Woman. You know, it's not. Zack Snyder's Justice League is his 100% his own vision. It's not Zack Snyder's compromised Justice League, or else it won't. It's called Zack Snyder's Justice League. What was Zack Snyder's Justice League? It was the original concept for it, and so that's why I believe that title, Zack's, and putting his name on top of Justice League, is to show you, is to tell you that this is his movie. This is not 80% his and 20% somebody else's. No, this is Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is not Zack Snyder and WB's and Toby Emmerich's and Jeff Johns' Justice League and maybe the Jeff Johns design for Steppenwolf's Justice League. No, it's Zack Snyder's Justice League. As simple as that. It's not Justice League the Director's Cut. It's not Justice League the Ultimate Edition. It's Zack Snyder's Justice League. That title in itself should give you a huge clue that the movie we're going to get is 100% Zack's vision. Okay? So that's how I think about it right now. And just think about it. Just think about it, you know. Now, I want to talk about, I know I totally, you know, Andy Signore's thing about Warner Brothers for a second. Now, he claims he has reps at Warner Brothers. By the way, I'm a rep for my factories, and even I don't even know the hell my factories are doing half the time. So, Warner Brother reps, okay, that's his source, right? Someone close to production, someone close to this, right? I find that funny because even in the Hollywood Reporter, when this article came out, this was eye-opening to me, and I can, you know, I can find that video again and put it in the link so you can go check it out. I read this whole article and what my thoughts are on it, right? With Warner Brothers and HBOMax, is AT&T setting up a sibling rivalry? When you go through here, there are comments, questions from executives, right? Okay, and here, so when they announced that there's going to have HBOMax and Warner Brothers, right? HBOMax is a division. They're going to make an arm to create films for HBOMax. Up to 10 movies a year for the new streaming service, but was not greeted with joy in town. What do you mean by that? It's not greeted with joy with Warner Brothers, okay? And it says right here, like, they don't even know. They're like, none of those movies has been announced so far, right? There are some shows here and there, but none of those original content has been announced so far. So think about that as well. You're thinking about, where's Zack Snyder's Justice League? None of the other 8 to 9 movies, if it's a movie, has been announced yet. So think about that, all right? Just think about that, okay? It also says here, when they're wondering why Warner Brothers executives, agents, producers reacted to what appears to be an opaque structure and possibly an exercise in misdirection. One executive with long-standing ties to the Warner's film studio said this: "It does seem like too many people on a press release screwing in a light bulb." What does that mean? He doesn't know. He doesn't know. Okay, so what's going on? These executives, these insiders, sources, don't know what's going on in their own studio because they, like I said, AT&T owns all this. So just keep that in mind. AT&T owns all this right now, right? There's higher ups, higher than Warner Brothers. Okay. So we go into little farther down, right? And now industry veterans fear that another legacy studio, Warner Brothers, is being ever so slowly metabolized, eaten up by HBOMax. Why? Because AT&T loves HBOMax. That's their new son. Their new son. That they're making Warner Brothers their firstborn give up the toys to the newborn. Okay? And they're not telling the firstborn what the newborn's doing. Does that make sense? Not that Warner's will stop making movies, but many believe it will make fewer in a much narrower range. They believe. They don't know. Is the new corporate owner, AT&T, going to give Warner Brothers the proper resources they need? Asks, questioned, an executive with significant ties to the studio. Okay, right there. Like, executives in Warner Brothers don't know what AT&T is trying to do. They're scared. They're scared for their bosses. Their bosses are starting to put more resources into HBOMax by creating a new division called WarnerMax. They're scared. They're like, WarnerMax. Oh no, they're going to make films? What about us? What about Warner Brothers? Okay, they're scared. They're freaking out over there. They're freaking out over there, okay? So again, go to this video that I read the whole thing, and then you can maybe I'm less enthusiastic when I was reading. I don't know, but they're scared. All right. So let's think about this for a second, right? Just think about this. Now we're always saying Warner Brothers this, Warner Brothers that, and I've said in this one, and I've said many times in my live chat, it's WarnerMax. Does anybody have sources at WarnerMax? Does anybody have sources at AT&T? Everybody keeps asking Warner Brothers. When are you going to ask AT&T? They are the ones that are doing all this for Zack Snyder's Justice League, I believe. Okay? I mean, I've heard things like, well, he went to AT&T. Zack went to AT&T instead. Okay? So it's like Warner Brothers may have some ego issues. Maybe there's some people from the past who did, because there's more executives in there, like the little guys, the little executives. There's so many freaking executives, man. I swear to God. But AT&T, they don't give a damn. They want money. They want clicks. They want views. They want people coming on and saying, subscribe to HBOMax. Not Netflix. Not Disney Plus. And we talked about this. I've talked about it with a whole bunch of people. Tons of people. Talked with Dave, John, Steven, Sean. We talked about a lot of this. Fatal J, Subjective, Taylor, everybody. I'm probably going to talk about it with Lightcast, Matthew, the same thing. It's, you got to think about these companies. You got to stop and think about what these big giant corporations, especially AT&T, what they're looking for. Okay, you got to read these boring corporate articles sometimes and look at it. Well, man, I'll read them for you. But they're telling you right here, right? I mean, Jason Keelar liked 2 Snyder Cut posts. I mean, what does that say, right? Right? They're looking at it. They're looking at social media. They're looking at what people want. And so if you're a guy, someone over at AT&T, and all you care about is the money, all you care about is the clicks, you'll look at the release of Snyder Cut and you're like, what can I do with that? Maybe we should make a movie. Maybe we should do an actual sequel to Justice League, right? Maybe we should do something like that. Well, what about it? Right? I've been looking at Andy Signore. He knew release of Snyder Cut was strong enough. So he's going to click. He's going to make an article about it because we know that we're going to click on it. But he loves the fights. So he's going to do a negative fashion because he wants you to go to his channel and fight with him about it. Hey. And it works. It worked. So anyway, Zack Snyder is pretty damn strong. This one, John Aaron put out a tweet, but it came from Vero. Zack Snyder posted on Vero, including Deborah, by the way. Deborah Snyder also did as well. Apparently, Fandango, or I don't know, it's Rotten Tomatoes or somebody, I think it's Rotten Tomatoes, put out a poll or something about what is, what's fans voted number one over 5. Streaming, HBO streamed over 500 hours of program for free, and fans voted number one that was streamed there. And Sucker Punch won. Sucker Punch won out of all the other shows that HBOMax is streaming. 500 hours of programming for free, and Sucker Punch won. Nice. Nice. So, as you can see, AT&T, who is a company about digital media, they're like the network TVs, they're looking at how much people tune in to a certain channel, to a certain show. How many views does this get? It's like YouTube. How many views does this get? Okay, well, this got this much views. This got this much clicks. Can we make more of that? Can we show more of that? Can we push that up? So if they're looking at, well, look at that. Zack Snyder's film is number one out of the 500 hours of programming for free. What can we do with that? What other Snyder film do we have laying around that we could just put on there? Maybe another movie, a new one? One that people are talking about? Is there a Snyder film people are talking about? Gee, I wonder. Could it be Zack Snyder's Justice League? Think about it. And I'll end it there. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.